For over 3 decades, The Simpsons has held up a satirical mirror to society, mocking our fears, our follies, and our futures.
We're looking into a picture going around online this month. It claims to show a screenshot of a 2002 episode of The Simpsons that eerily mirrors real-life events.
But somewhere between the jokes and the cartoon chaos, something strange happened. Episodes that once felt absurd started coming true. Trump's presidency, smartwatches, video calls, even Lady Gaga's Super Bowl performance, all predicted years before they occurred. Now, buried in flash-forward episodes and dystopian gags, there are warnings far darker than celebrity cameos. These aren't just throwaway jokes. They're glimpses into futures where pollution, pandemics, and power collapses turn Earth into a nightmare. And the clock is ticking toward 2026. So what happens when satire stops being funny and starts feeling inevitable? Environmental catastrophe and the dome. In the Simpsons movie, Springfield becomes ground zero for environmental disaster. Homer dumps a silo of pig waste into the already polluted lake, triggering a cascading ecological crisis. The EPA's response? Seal the entire town under a massive glass dome, trapping residents inside like lab rats. No escape, no supplies, just panic and decay. It was played for laughs in 2007, but the concept isn't so absurd anymore. Today, cities across the globe are suffocating under smog, wildfires blanket entire regions in toxic smoke, and microplastics have infiltrated every corner of the biosphere. We're approaching tipping points that climate scientists have warned about for decades. Rising carbon levels, melting ice sheets, and collapsing ecosystems aren't theoretical anymore. They're happening. And when governments face climate disasters they can't solve, containment becomes the only option. Think quarantine zones, but for pollution. Elite neighborhoods with air filtration systems while the rest choke. It's not science fiction, it's environmental triage. Springfield's dome was satire, but controlled survival zones are already being discussed in policy papers. When the air outside becomes unbreathable, who decides who gets to breathe clean? Mars colonization, dreams turn into nightmares. In the episode The Marge Ian Chronicles, the Simpsons sign up for a one-way Mars colonization mission. The pitch is utopian. A fresh start on the red planet, humanity's next great frontier, but reality crashes in fast. Marge and Lisa are selected for the journey while Homer, Bart, and Maggie are left behind on Earth. The mission timeline stretches from 2026 to 2051, due to delays, breakdowns, and psychological collapse among the crew. Families are torn apart across 140 million miles of cold vacuum. No do-overs, no reunions. The satire cuts deep because we're living through the hype right now. Billionaires are racing to Mars, promising colonies and self-sustaining cities. But the fine print is grim. Radiation exposure, bone density loss, psychological isolation, and zero infrastructure. Early settlers won't be pioneers. They'll be guinea pigs, abandoned by corporations once the PR value dries up. NASA and private space ventures admit the risks, yet the marketing machine churns on. The episode's dark joke is that by the time people realize Mars colonization is a trap, they'll already be locked in. No refunds, no return flights, just regret on a dead planet. And the families left on Earth, they become ghosts to each other, separated by a distance no video call can bridge. AI surveillance and the death of privacy. Back in 1994, Homer Badman introduced a nightmare that feels more real every year. Homer is falsely accused of assault after a babysitter misinterprets a gag involving a gummy candy. The media descends, hidden cameras capture every angle, and edited footage turns him into a villain overnight. Context dies in the editing bay. Homer's innocence means nothing against the mob. Fast forward to today, and we're living in that episode. Facial recognition software tracks us across cities. Surveillance cameras blanket streets, stores, and even homes. Deepfake technology can fabricate videos indistinguishable from reality. One doctored clip, one AI-generated audio clip, and a person's life can be destroyed within hours. Cancel culture amplifies the chaos. Social media platforms turn accusations into trials, where public opinion is judge, jury, and executioner. There's no defense against the algorithm. Once the mob decides guilt, facts become irrelevant. The Simpsons exaggerated for comedy, but the mechanics are here. Governments and corporations monitor everything. Privacy is a relic. Every text, every search, every step is logged, analyzed, and stored. And when someone wants to destroy you, they don't need evidence. They just need a narrative and the tools to spread it. The episode asked, what happens when surveillance meets outrage? We're finding out, and it's uglier than any cartoon could predict. The global food crisis and synthetic survival. Future episodes of The Simpsons hint at a world where real food becomes a luxury. In future drama and scattered flash-forwards, characters choke down bland, factory-produced Nutriblocks, tasteless slabs of synthetic nutrition. Agriculture has collapsed, and humanity survives on lab-grown rations. It's grim satire, but the foundation is already being laid. Industrial farming is stripping soil of nutrients. Erosion, monoculture crops, and chemical overuse are degrading farmland at alarming rates. Climate change is making droughts longer and floods more severe, wiping out harvests. Meanwhile, population growth demands more food from less arable land. The math doesn't add up. Enter lab-grown meat, insect protein, and algae-based supplements. These aren't niche experiments anymore. They're being scaled for mass consumption. The promise is sustainability, but the reality is grim pragmatism. When you can't grow crops, you manufacture food. Taste, culture, and tradition become secondary to survival. The Simpsons joked about flavorless blocks, but we're heading toward a world where real beef or fresh vegetables are priced like caviar. Most people will eat whatever keeps them alive, and when food becomes purely functional, we lose something deeply human. Meals turn into chores. Cuisine becomes a memory. The episode didn't predict a sudden catastrophe. It predicted a slow surrender, where convenience and necessity erase flavor and choice. That future is closer than we'd like to admit. Economic meltdown from tech giant collapse. In The Fool Monty, Mr. Burns's financial empire collapses, dragging all of Springfield into bankruptcy. Jobs vanish, homes are foreclosed, and the town descends into riots and homelessness. The ultra-rich retreat into fortified mansions while everyone else scrambles for scraps. It's a cartoon caricature, but the parallels to today's economy are unsettling. Tech giants have become too big to fail, yet they're built on fragile foundations. Stock valuations inflated by speculation, layoffs to appease shareholders, and entire industries dependent on a handful of companies. When one pillar cracks, the whole structure wobbles. History has shown us what happens when economic bubbles burst. The dot-com crash, the 2008 financial crisis, each time millions lost jobs, savings, and futures. Now imagine that on a global scale, with even more interconnected systems. A major tech collapse doesn't just wipe out Silicon Valley. It cascades through finance, logistics, retail, and infrastructure. Cities dependent on tech jobs become ghost towns overnight. Urban centers, once gleaming with innovation, turn into derelict landscapes. The wealthy, insulated by offshore accounts and private security, weather the storm. The rest? They're left to navigate the wreckage. The episode played it for dark comedy, but the warning is clear. Economic systems built on hype rather than sustainability are ticking time bombs. And when they explode, the fallout doesn't discriminate. It just crushes whoever's beneath it. Another pandemic on the horizon. In 1993, Marge and Chains unleashed the Osaka flu on Springfield. The virus arrives via contaminated goods from Japan, spreading rapidly through the town. Panic buying, overwhelmed hospitals, and societal breakdown follow. Sound familiar?
The dreaded Osaka flu has hit Springfield with over 300 cases now reported.
The episode became eerily prophetic during COVID-19, but the real warning isn't about past pandemics. It's about the next one. Zoonotic diseases, viruses jumping from animals to humans, are increasing. Deforestation pushes wildlife into human habitats. Wet markets facilitate cross-species transmission, and global travel spreads pathogens before symptoms even appear. Ebola, SARS, MERS, COVID-19, they're not anomalies. They're previews. Experts warn that another pandemic is not a question of if, but when. And next time, we might not be as lucky. Imagine a virus with COVID's transmission rate but Ebola's lethality. Health systems that barely survived 2020 wouldn't stand a chance. Supply chains, already fragile, would snap. Governments would face impossible choices, lock down again and risk economic collapse, or stay open and watch death tolls climb. The Simpsons episode joked about mob violence over flu cures, but real-world panic is never far behind scarcity.
We need a cure! Why, the only cure is bed rest.
Anything I give you would only be a placebo.
Vaccine distribution, medical resources, even food, all become battlegrounds. The episode's dark humor masked a brutal truth. We're always one mutation away from chaos. And with climate change accelerating habitat destruction, that mutation could be brewing in a forest somewhere, waiting for the wrong contact at the wrong time. World War III and nuclear brinkmanship. In Bart to the Future, Lisa becomes President of the United States, inheriting a nation in crisis.
How bad is it, Secretary Van Houten?
We're broke.
The country is broke.
The previous administration left behind massive budget deficits, international tensions, and vague references to conflicts spiraling out of control. It's set decades ahead, but the geopolitical powder keg it depicts feels disturbingly close. Today, proxy wars are escalating. Ukraine, Taiwan, the Middle East, flashpoints where superpowers circle each other, testing boundaries. Nuclear arsenals remain on high alert. Deterrence only works until miscalculation, cyber attacks, or rogue actors push things past the brink. The episode's joke was that President Lisa had to clean up an impossible mess, but the real horror is that such a mess is being built right now. Diplomacy is breaking down. Arms treaties are expiring. Hypersonic missiles, AI-controlled weapons, and cyber warfare are rewriting the rules of conflict. In past decades, the doctrine of mutually assured destruction kept nuclear war at bay. But as more nations acquire nukes and smaller conflicts go unresolved, the margin for error shrinks. The Simpsons didn't depict nuclear war outright, but the implications were there. A world on edge, where leadership inherits disasters they can't fix. Bart's future presidency was played as incompetence leading to ruin.
We will do what is necessary to prevent them from getting a nuclear weapon.
But what if competence isn't enough? What if the systems are so broken that no leader, no matter how skilled, can pull back from the edge? That's the nightmare scenario. Not a sudden apocalypse, but a slow, grinding march toward a conflict everyone sees coming, but no one can stop. AI overlords and mass unemployment. Across various Simpsons episodes, from Homer 3 to flash forwards featuring robot police and automated enforcers, there's a recurring theme: machines replacing humans. Jobs vanish, surveillance intensifies, and the unemployed masses are left to scavenge while AI systems manage society with cold efficiency. It's dystopian fiction, except it's already starting. Automation is accelerating. Self-checkout kiosks, warehouse robots, AI customer service, even legal research and medical diagnostics. Machines are doing what people used to do, faster and cheaper. The promise was that automation would free humans for creative work. The reality? It's freeing humans from paychecks. Studies estimate that millions of jobs will be displaced in the next decade. Truck drivers, retail workers, factory employees, even white-collar roles like accountants and paralegals are on the chopping block, and there's no safety net robust enough to catch them all. Universal basic income is discussed but not implemented. Retraining programs can't keep pace with technological change. Meanwhile, surveillance AI is spreading. Facial recognition, behavior prediction algorithms, predictive policing. Machines are making decisions about who to watch, who to arrest, who to flag as a threat. The Simpsons envisioned robot enforcers patrolling streets. We have predictive analytics deciding who gets pulled over before they've committed a crime. The episode's satire was that humans became obsolete, reduced to background noise in a machine-run world. We're not there yet, but the trajectory is clear. Jobs disappear, surveillance expands, and power consolidates with whoever controls the algorithms. And when enough people have nothing left to lose, rebellion isn't just possible, it's inevitable. Extreme weather makes Earth uninhabitable. The Simpsons has depicted weather disasters across multiple episodes. In Lisa's wedding, floods ravage cities. In Homer the Heretic, fire nearly destroys the Simpson home due to negligence. These isolated gags when viewed through a picture of a planet under siege from its own climate. And that future is arriving ahead of schedule. Megafloods are becoming routine. Coastal cities face rising sea levels, while inland regions drown under unprecedented rainfall. Hurricanes intensify, wildfires burn hotter and longer, and droughts stretch for years. We've seen glimpses: Australia's bushfires, California's infernos, Pakistan's floods, Europe's heat waves. These aren't anomalies. They're the new baseline. Scientists project that by 2026, extreme weather events will be even more frequent and severe. Entire regions could become unlivable, not in some distant future, but in the next few years. Coastal evacuations, climate refugees, and resource wars over water and arable land aren't speculation. They're planning scenarios. The Simpsons joked about Springfield residents needing safe bubbles to survive outdoors.
It's conceptual art! The Grand Canals of Springfield!
Reality is catching up. Air quality alerts, heat domes forcing people indoors, and the rise of climate-controlled luxury zones for the wealthy while everyone else suffers. The episode's satire was that survival became a privilege. We're watching that unfold. Climate change isn't an abstract threat anymore. It's reshaping where people can live, what they can eat, and whether they can even go outside. The planet isn't dying, it's becoming hostile, and we're running out of places to hide. Time manipulation and reality collapse. In Treehouse of Horror 6, Homer accidentally invents time travel with a toaster. Each trip to the past creates horrifying alternate realities, worlds ruled by sentient corn, dystopian futures, and chaotic realities where nothing makes sense. It's absurd comedy, but the concept taps into real fears about tampering with fundamental forces we don't fully understand. Quantum physics is pushing boundaries that once seemed impossible. Experiments with particle accelerators, quantum entanglement, and theoretical wormholes are no longer confined to science fiction. Facilities like CERN probe the fabric of space-time, and while scientists insist the risks are minimal, the unknowns are vast. What happens if we tear a hole in reality we can't patch? The episode's dark joke was that Homer's careless tinkering unraveled existence itself. Today, we're running experiments with energies and forces that could, in theory, have consequences beyond our comprehension. The fear isn't just about time travel. It's about unintended side effects, creating micro-black holes, destabilizing quantum fields, or triggering cascades we can't control. Most scientists dismiss these as fringe concerns, but history is littered with technologies that were deemed safe until they weren't. The Simpsons played it for laughs, but the underlying anxiety is real. We're poking at the universe's source code, and there's no undo button. If something goes wrong, if an experiment opens a door we can't close, we won't get a chance to fix it. Reality doesn't offer second drafts. Zombie apocalypse from bioengineering. In Days of Future, Milhouse becomes infected with a zombie virus after a bite in a fallout shelter. The infection spreads through Springfield, turning residents into the undead and forcing survivors into desperate, fortified enclaves. It's classic horror satire, but the premise is rooted in a very real fear. Lab-grown pathogens escaping containment, gain-of-function research where scientists modify viruses to study their potential mutations is controversial precisely because of the risks. The goal is to predict and prevent pandemics, but critics argue it's like juggling live grenades to learn about explosions. Lab leaks have happened before. Smallpox, anthrax, even SARS samples have escaped containment in various facilities worldwide. Most were contained quickly, but most isn't all. The fear is that a modified pathogen, engineered to be more transmissible or more lethal for research purposes, could escape and spread before anyone realizes. COVID-19 sparked debates about lab origins, and while conclusive evidence remains elusive, the possibility alone reignited fears about biosafety. The Simpsons episode played the zombie apocalypse for horror comedy.
Come with me if you want to live.
But swap zombies for hemorrhagic fever or airborne rabies, and the scenario becomes terrifyingly plausible. A virus that spreads fast, kills efficiently, and overwhelms health systems before containment is possible. The episode's survivors barricaded themselves against hordes. In reality, quarantine zones, martial law, and societal collapse would follow. We've seen how fragile order is during pandemics. Now imagine one with no vaccine and no cure. That's not science fiction, that's a lab accident away. Deepfake democracy and political collapse. The Simpsons has repeatedly satirized political corruption, but episodes like Bart to the Future hint at something deeper, a government so fractured and dysfunctional that it can't govern at all. Combine that with modern technology, and you get a nightmare scenario: deepfake democracy. Deepfakes are no longer experimental. AI can generate videos of anyone saying anything, indistinguishable from reality. Politicians giving speeches they never made, confessions they never uttered, scandals fabricated from thin air. And once the video is out, the damage is done. Debunking takes time. Viral misinformation spreads in minutes. Elections become battlegrounds of manufactured narratives. Voters can't trust what they see or hear. Opponents deploy deepfakes to discredit rivals, and the public has no way to verify truth. Trust in institutions collapses and polarization deepens. The Simpsons hinted at political chaos through incompetence, but deepfakes add a new layer: intentional, AI-driven sabotage. Echo chambers fragment society into tribes, each consuming tailored realities that confirm their biases. When people live in separate informational universes, common ground disappears. Governance becomes impossible. The episode's joke was that leadership inherited unsolvable crises. Today's crisis is that truth itself is under assault. When reality is negotiable, democracy fails. And into that vacuum, authoritarianism thrives. Strong leaders who promise order, who claim they alone can cut through the noise. The Simpsons predicted political dysfunction. They didn't predict the tools that would weaponize it. But those tools are here, and they're already being used. The question isn't if they'll undermine democracy, it's whether democracy can survive them. The Simpsons never claimed to be prophets. They're satirists, holding up a funhouse mirror to society's worst impulses and darkest fears. But satire has a way of becoming history when the world refuses to course correct. From environmental collapse to deepfake chaos, from pandemics to AI overlords, the warnings are painted in bright yellow and broadcast with laugh tracks. Yet the joke stops being funny when fiction starts feeling like a preview. We're not in Springfield, but we're closer than we'd like to think.